the meta changes all the
all the
time.
time. Yeah.
And so I imagine in your position, you're kind of in that like less than 1% of the competitive players that are ahead of the meta, and you almost create the meta because you're winning. And
Right.
then people
Yeah.
change their lists according to what is won, and then the meta changes, and then you're ahead of that. Would you say
Right.
that's accurate? Would you say
That's
that's
pretty accurate. Yeah. Yeah.
okay? So then there's got to be something. I mean, in like there's I don't know if there's a formula or if it's like is it your brain? Is it could anyone do that if they focused on it hard
Right.
enough? Like what is that? Like what's
Yeah,
happening
that's
there?
that's a great question because it seems like such a far-reaching concept for the vast majority of players. Like, it's hard to get into the 1% of anything, but it's not. 40K is a game which is totally attainable. It's not a physical sport, so like I can never be the 1% of NBA players. I'm 5'11" and I'm brown. I can't jump, so I just can't dunk a basketball. It's physically impossible. But your brain power is something different. So the more time you spend on something, the more analytical you are about it,
Yeah.
the more like you can just reach higher levels there. So there's no limit to your knowledge in 40K. It's just about the amount of time you want to put into it and how honest with yourself you are. That's one of the big things I coach with people is it's not your dice's fault you lost, it's your fault. Whether that's you wrote the bad list or you just played it wrong or you didn't understand the armies. That's all areas you can improve upon too. So that's great. Um,
That's another thing
it's
too. Like ultimately there's dice. So
Right, right. Well, people always say there's no such thing as competitive 40K because there's that luck aspect. That would be saying there's no such thing as competitive anything aside from like chess because there's always a luck aspect. Like, are you saying competitive poker is just a myth? Because I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people who disagree. What about competitive football? Like the wind blows in one direction or the other. Like, what do you do about that?
right.
So the top level players are ones that know how to mitigate the impact of luck. Obviously, you're going to have to roll the dice, and if you just roll 300 ones on 300 dice, yeah, you're probably going to lose. But that's it's okay to lose a game every 1 in 10,000 times. If you're trying to go 8-0 in a tournament, you're not worried about the if I roll 300 ones on 300 dice kind of outliers. That's absurd.
Right.
You're worried about like things like I see a lot of intermediate players to beginner players doing things that they're supposed to do without looking at the other side of the coin. So a perfect example is the concept of seize the initiative. I can't tell you how many times I've heard clients of mine or just players at a tournament, whoever, whining like a little annoying kid when they lost because someone seized the initiative on them. Like, I was so set up to win this game, and then the guy just rolled a 6. I would have had him. It's like that doesn't happen to top level players, and
Right.
not because our opponents don't roll 6s. I promise they do. It's because we come up with backup plans and levels to our strategy that accounts for if he seizes, this happens. If I fail this psychic power that's really important, this happens.
Right.
And then when you account for those levels, you have a tiered, layered strategy that's obviously much more complex, but that's how you get consistency and you don't just lose to the die rolls because something went wrong in your plan.
Right. Yeah. No, that actually makes sense. It's actually sounds like chess where you're thinking many moves ahead and you're making plans for what might happen.
Absolutely. Yeah. I compare 40K to chess a lot to my friends who just don't know what 40K is.